Welcome to Unshackled Living.
Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Unshackled Living. I'm here with Rob and Silvia, who are the founders of A Place to Be. And Rob is also the author of Glitch. Guys, thanks for being with me here today.
Thank you too.
Thanks for having us.
Guys, just to get started, I'd love to hear a little bit about your story of why sovereignty became important to you. How did you get into this idea? What is the genesis of this?
I think
I'll start with,
okay.
There was a moment, I worked in football for many years, soccer. And I remember I was working for a very big team in London, and I would have to travel on the M25, which is like the major motorway in London. And it was raining one day and everyone was stuck in traffic. And I'd been just the pressure of that sort of, it wasn't 9 to 5, it was like 24/7 of working in football. And I just looked, the radio was on, and now I know like Fiat life, but at that time,
you continue. I'll come back in a minute.
Apologies, we have someone, my daughter's coming in, and I was sitting there in the car, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, I looked at everyone around me. It was one of those real moments where I said, am I going to do this for the rest of my life? Because I knew people who'd done it for the rest of their life. And I just said, I need to plan an escape. I don't want to do this anymore. So that was like 2005. And so I became a consultant. So internationally, I was working for a player with Barcelona. But even then, I realized that I had to be there with him, and I wanted to have more freedom. And so I met Silvia about the same time, and I started to look at creating online content while I was working with this player. And so we started to get into learning about going online. How could I create a living where I didn't have to be anywhere? So that was maybe 2009, 2010 in the end.
Yeah.
And I created a body language course in the male dating niche. And I was in that dating niche, which was one of the most competitive niches. So I was in with all the dating gurus, and I was interviewed by David D'Angelo and everything. But it was just I was just looking for a way to monetize and be able to live not dependent on a location. So that's, I think, where we started to cut our teeth in the escaping the hamster wheels.
Yeah, for me, I kind of grew up with a dad who was constantly telling me about how effed up the system was, the banks, the doctors, he didn't trust them, the politicians, and just the whole thing. We didn't get vaccinated, and he was mentally out of the system, but we had to live in it. And he had a 9-to-5 job that he didn't like. So I visited sometimes after school. I drove past on my bike, and I sat with him, and and I saw that he wasn't happy, and I thought, this is really boring, sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day. And I then said to myself, I'm never going to work at a desk. I'm never going to work like 8 hours doing something that I don't enjoy. I'm going to do something that I really like. So I think I grew up with this mindset, but I never heard of the word sovereignty, because I grew up in Germany, speaking just German and Spanish, but just when we moved here and we were, I became real part of the Bitcoin community. We were Bitcoiners already, but then speaking to lots of Bitcoiners, I heard the word sovereignty, and I had never heard it before. But as Rob said, it started early, and in 2008 when we met, Rob introduced me also into the kind of the mental sovereignty, where you don't just believe your thoughts and act like a robot, programmed robot, but we did a lot of internal work together, and he introduced me to this world, and we've been diving deeper and deeper into this ever since, and we're still living this, and it just gets more and more sovereign, because the more we look at the system and ourselves, the more we see that, okay, this is also a bit of a habit, a learned behavior, something we just do because, and but it kind of, you see it easier now with more experience with the system and with the self, that sovereignty, it's not something you can just do or you can become overnight. It's something you really have to work on.
That's great. So I guess this brought you from living in Germany and the UK into Madeira at some point. And you kind of talked about how that connected you into a Bitcoin community as well. Can you kind of connect this journey? Was Bitcoin the first maybe real step into living sovereignly, or was there other things that you stepped into first, like natural health or unschooling or something else?
Well, the health was first, I think. I mean, first it's what, mentally and physically, we were always like, we want to be healthy. But then you got into Bitcoin before we got into unschooling.
Yeah, I was at a high net worth individuals event in Koh Samui through my work, and I was talking to a client, and he's very one of the most smart people I know, and he said, hey, I'm into something. I'm all in on something. I was like, okay. And for the previous 4 years, I'd been deeply looking at my beliefs around value and money and understanding money. So reading everything I could find on books. And as I said in other podcasts, when I know how this reality works for me, is that I start putting my energy into something, and then the answers, I don't necessarily know them immediately, but I know I'm going to be pulling in the right answer. So I spent 3-4 years when we had our first child. It was like a wake up call for when you have your first child. It's like, wow, I need to be serious now. And so I did that, and then I knew, when he said, I'm all in on something, all my hairs went up. I knew nothing had stuck before, stocks and commodities and all this. I didn't really get it. But when he said Bitcoin, I just went, okay, this is it. And I knew at that moment, I still get the hairs go up when I think about it. I didn't understand what it was. And then in my head, I said, this is it. That's the thing that I've been waiting for. And he just told me one thing. He said, you can only hold it to the amount you value yourself. That's along those lines. Like you have to understand it to be able to go through the ups and downs, right?
When was this?
That was 2017, just before the run up,
Yes.
And so I then, from that moment on, I went, when I do something, I'll go full down the rabbit hole, and I studied it. And when Bitcoin was crashing and I felt sick buying, I knew that was good. Everyone's saying it's dead, down at 4,000 or 3,000 something. I was like, no, this is, I know this is the right thing. And so we were looking for a new place to live. And we were going to go to Mauritius. They locked down hard in COVID, very authoritarian. So I said no. And as I was going, no, all my plans to move to Mauritius, it's not going to work. And then someone walked past me, and I heard the word Madeira.
But that was 4 years ago.
Yeah,
that wasn't when we discovered Bitcoin.
Not when we. Sorry. So we've been in Bitcoin a while, and but it was that moment that I said, "Where's Madeira?" And then someone else in that day said, oh, we just come back from Madeira. So I knew that was a sign. Like, it's not there are no such thing as coincidences in my experience. And so I knew there's something about Madeira. And so I looked on Twitter, Bitcoin Madeira, and there was Andre And so I reached out to him, said, I'm coming over, do you want to meet? And so we sat in this beautiful little park in the center of Funchal when we visited the first time for a month. And I said, look, we're thinking of doing something like like we're looking for a community to start building an unschooling type community. And he said, come and do it here, like I'll help. And there was one other Bitcoiner that I knew there, Nico from Consensus Network. And so we both agreed that, Madeira's in Europe. It doesn't feel like it. It feels a bit like Africa. It's kind of low down, so it has wonderful sunshine. It's wonderful for you, for your health and everything. But it was early days. There was nothing really happening, and we just said, we both agree that you put your energy into something, and you bit by bit you build it, and everyone will say nothing's happening and there's nothing going to happen, but you just move forward, right? And so we, now there's 170 businesses accepting Bitcoin here. So, when I think I remember there was maybe one of the first places was a curry house I orange pilled, an Indian restaurant here, and now they're all accepting. So that's why we chose Madeira, and also in terms of its location, it's not like Cyprus or Dubai, that's getting bombed. Really, I was thinking, well, what would it look like? Like it's risk assessment, and it's very safe here, and it's not going to be bombed by Iran. There's nothing here that they're going to aim for,
Yeah, I get that. So what is a place to be?
It's going to be a neighborhood for families, and other people who want to live a sovereign lifestyle. So my first intention when I started it was to have a neighborhood for families who don't send their kids to school. And then it grew, and the idea grew, and I went from, complete unschooling mindset, everybody has to be unschoolers who wants to live here, to more live and let live mindset. And that's what it's going to be. We bought a piece of land through Citadel Garden. So Rahim Tagizadian came to me a couple of years ago and asked if we wanted to do this together. So because they're doing the same thing, we onboarded. So a place to be is their second location. They already built a neighborhood or a village in Istria, which we're going to inaugurate now in May. And Istria in Croatia. And we'll be there for about 6 weeks with many other families who have either, already joined a place to be beforehand, or are now also part of Citadel Garden, or who are interested in it, who want to experience what it's like to live in a place like this, like maybe how we lived a few hundred or 1,000 years ago when there weren't any schools, because that's the idea, that a place to be is a place where you can start from zero, just being, without being something, being not even being happy or being learning or being creative or being nothing. It's just first we are like we were, like when we were born, and then we learned a lot and we adopted a lot of beliefs and habits and behaviors. But the idea is to give it this space where not just kids but also adults can find something to, I don't know, it's hard to explain it now.
It's really like if you go to school, you get conditioned into the success mindset. Like we have to, you get conditioned on what is a correct society, and certain countries seem to be conditioning the children more, into particular doctrine. But when you bringing it back to the basics of gain and loss. Is we go to school and we have to get good grades to be good kids, to be successful, and that wheel that we start to condition the children to that they're incentivized to get good grades. So it decentralizes like creativity or say problem solving or critical thinking, because you'll get kicked out of the class, or so we wanted to create an environment where enjoyment is the incentive. And what we found with our kids is when they enjoy something, they learn it much quicker. And it's they only learn something when they have to, not because they're told to. A bit like learning to, you go to school and you learn about business, and it's a bit like learning to tightrope when the rope is on the floor, because you're not doing anything. There's no what's the word, outcome, or there's no responsibility really. But with our kids, like our 9-year-old daughter has a dog walking business. So she's learning about economics and responsibility and, all of that. So we want to have a place where everyone is, there's no authority, and the children are their own authority. So the children are sovereign. It doesn't mean we give them, they have screens 24/7 and they can drink Coke all day. But we're there to protect them, and look after their health, and that's one of the things is screens, because they're highly addictive. But apart from that, it's live and let live, and that goes for the adults and for the children as well.
Yeah, the thing with that is that it's not something, there are no rules as such that everybody has to raise their kids this way or a certain way. It's really everybody has, like for me, everybody has the right to decide what they want to do with their time. My kids, the same as other people's, but some parents will say, no, I don't want my kids to do this or do that, and I want them to do that. And that's fine as well. But the initial thought was just, kids are usually just very curious, and they love to learn, they love to explore naturally, and they will be able to do that. And for adults to do the same, it's more like returning to that. And that was the idea about the name. But now I always say to everybody, the only thing we have to have in common is the live and let live mindset. That really, I can do whatever I want. We don't always have to do things together as a big community, or, you can believe in what you want, you can eat what you want and when you want. And for me, it's the same for the kids. For other parents, it will be, no, I want to teach them about the Bible. And for the others, no, I want my kids to be really good at math. And for others, it's something else. But the point is that nobody should or will come and say, okay, this is the list that everybody now has to do or learn, and all the kids now have to go to this place. We don't call it school, but we just want to have this space where and we're getting the right people now,
Yeah, I would say it's also that, maybe we said no shitcoiners to initially, but it's sort of what word did we use? Not shitcoin, like altcoins. Let's just say altcoin trade.
No, but we said shitcoin.
Okay,
yeah.
We just said shitcoin. So what we've noticed is Silvia at first said, no, you can't, Rob, you can't say just Bitcoiners. I said, just wait, because if you are a Bitcoiner, you really understand it, then you understand that you have to take responsibility, not your keys, not your coins, and so that type of person, you will know it. And I said to her, so she would go meet people who are interested in the project, and then she started to say, I think they're shitcoiners, and I only in the respect that they didn't get this responsibility thing and a certain amount of awareness, because if you don't do the full work into understanding Bitcoin, then that usually ties in with how you do everything. You don't fully understand things and take responsibility, and you see it with at the moment it's just like everyone's got an opinion about Bitcoin. And Ray Dalio, you can see he hasn't really done his full 1,000 hours, or everyone else who's got an opinion who says you can. That actor who said, yeah, you just, what happens if someone switches it off? He hasn't done, and there's a lack of awareness there, or lack of like taking full responsibility, like really looking at something, understanding it. So we found that people who were like Ethereum holders, they would come in and you could see it in their clothing. So that they were showing, look how much wealth I have, like big watches and brands and things. And then Bitcoiners show up and they're just shorts and flip-flops. And after a while,
everybody's welcome.
Everyone's
place
welcome
to be. Like, really, I don't care what clothes somebody wears, or if they have other coins than Bitcoin, if they have a fixed curriculum for the kids, if they are spiritual or not. Because some people said we don't want spiritual people. Then the others said I'm looking for a spiritual community. Yeah. Then some people said,
so we're libertarian now.
Yeah, it's just live and let live. That works best, because the only thing we need to have is one thing in common at a certain moment of time, where we do something together if we want to. Like, I will go to the woodworking shed and I might bump into a 10-year-old and a 50-year-old, and we do this together. And then on another day I might meet them and we have nothing to talk about. But it doesn't matter. We don't always have to be I just don't want this force, we have to do this together, or there's no rules, because there were always people saying, yeah, but I want my kids to learn this and that, and then others would say something completely different, and you cannot imagine what they thought was like necessary, important for everybody, as they said it. Some people, like, usually it's like math and physics and stuff like that, but then there were others who said, I think everybody in this community, a place to be community, should learn Pilates and what was it, the non-violent communication. So they wanted to teach that, and I said, you can offer it, go ahead, but
free market.
Nobody's. I'm not gonna be there.
I guess that's kind of the core value of a libertarian. If we understand, like, the Austrian school of economics, like, it really is about kind of that freedom and independence of choice, right? To allow people to, without judgment, although you might not necessarily agree with them, to allow them to do the things that are important to them, as long as it doesn't effectively harm or interrupt the life of somebody else, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And I appreciate that. I mean, I think that's super valuable.
Mm-hmm.
So is this a place where you're selling pieces of property on your land so I can buy a house and join the community, or is this a vacation rental, or are these rental properties that you're setting up? Like, what is I guess the practical structure?
Mm-hmm. Well, now we're only talking about Citadel Garden right now, because this is the main organization and we're under them now. So the only way in right now is as a shareholder, where you buy shares of the whole, and then you have access to all the villages that we're going to build. And it's going to be Croatia, Madeira. There's going to be probably at least one village on every continent, to give the possibility to never pay tax legally, never send your kids to school legally, and just be a perpetual tourist, to live alongside the system. And I mean, we're already doing it. We're just kind of cherry picking from the system what we want and need. Yeah. But this is amazing, because you will also always have the community, because anybody can just travel as they please. But the great thing is you're surrounded by mainly Bitcoiners, sovereign individuals, sovereign people, sovereign families, who you have a lot more in common with, and you can have maybe deeper conversations with.
I like that. That's great. So when you look at maybe how you raise your children, or how you envision kind of this ideal situation related to unschooling, many parents feel trapped with traditional schooling models, including my wife and I. We've got 3 kids. They're 8, 10, and 12. They're in elementary public school. And it's challenging, because we don't necessarily want to be around them all the time because they're kind of annoying because they're kids, right? And but we also don't value the stuff that they're learning. Public school system is a bit of a babysitting service, really, and so we do feel trapped. So, like, what does unschooling actually look like practically inside the home, or how have you guys seen it developed in various different families that really work to make the child and parent relationship dynamic?
Yeah. I don't know if you feel the same about your wife. Does she work, or do you have a job where you go to, or do you spend all day with your wife?
Yeah, we both are fairly flexible. We both do work. She works part-time. But the opportunity to be away from the kids for those few hours is kind of life-giving, I think, is what we both feel.
Okay, because like I don't feel that way about Rob, for example. I can spend 24/7 with Rob, and that's what we've been basically doing since we've known each other.
No, I would say it depends when they're around you, because when our kids are here, they just do whatever they want. So they're not coming up and saying, "Oh, they're completely free." So we just
like entertaining them all the time.
Oh, we
never,
don't. Ever.
If we do something entertaining, it comes naturally. It's something we do together, or sometimes we do like games, and like we like the, what was it? If you pretend to, what do we call it?
Oh yeah,
it's not charade.
No, you do impressions.
Yeah, impressions. Like
we do.
One of them
they do impressions of me, or
we do them of one another. We usually don't do impressions of other people, but it's just making fun of each other, and that's something that we all find entertaining. And sometimes this is mainly Rob doing it, and we're just watching and laughing. But you know, it's not like Rob is trying to entertain us. It's just what we do. That's the thing. Like the same way I can spend 24/7 with Rob is how I can spend 24/7 with my kids, because I don't know, there's nobody I love more on the planet than them, and there's nobody who loves me more than they do. And we respect each other, and we have a great time. And of course, sometimes it feels a bit much, and they get, you know, whiny, and they start screaming, and they're tired. And we have the same. Sometimes we're in a bad mood, and we might not cry and whine and, you know, get noisy, but everybody experiences this. So I think the main thing about unschooling, to have a pleasant experience, is the internal work. That's 99% of it, because the less you ask them to do things, or tell them to do things, or say don't do that, the better for them. Like the more they learn, the better they become at problem solving, at critical thinking, and creativity, all of that they were born with. You just keep it intact naturally. You don't damage it.
Yeah, I'd say counterintuitively, the less like when you're fully connected with them. So when you speak to them, that you look them in the eye. You're not somewhere else. But the less input you put in, the more they flourish. It's a very unusual, and it's really shocked me, because all my family are teachers. So when we didn't do this, you can imagine, my mom is still now, she says, she kind of nods, she goes, they're so bright. Oh, that's the key one. Like, they're so bright, they should be at school. But we're like, no, they're so bright because we do.
Not in school.
When they're not in school, and they're so. It's also just. We don't just go, you know, I'm at home all day and then they're at home all day. We also plan. So we'll go, there's a lot of different things going on in Madeira. So they have surfing, horse riding, dancing, meetups. So it takes a village to raise a kid. That's really important. So we're around other people. So when we go meet them, the kids meet. And they go off, and because it's super safe here, like they just go off. So it's not,
Yeah, you can. I think Madeira is the perfect place to unschool, because here they can really walk out the door, and we're not in the countryside or on a mountain. We're kind of in the city, and they can still walk outside by themselves and meet friends, go to the park, go shopping, you know, do what they want. And they don't do that much on their own. We do a lot together. But yeah, you could, that's also the point with being with a place to be, that it's a safe environment. And by safe, I mean more like, there's lots of nature and they can climb trees and there's always danger.
Like how it used to be when I was a kid. It's like you left the house, there was no telephone.
Yeah.
So you came back when it was dark, you couldn't see the ball anymore and you were hungry. And so you'd be out all day. And so...
this is the part of our childhood that we want for our kids now, but without school.
Yeah.
So that they can be free.
So do you have them, like, you want your kids to learn to read, or you kind of think it's important for them to learn math, or maybe like woodworking and poetry is really important to you? Are you linking up with other families who are unschooling, and maybe one parent is really into poetry and they kind of help with that, or are you enrolling them into like municipal run activities, like there's like you put them in surf classes or whatever? Like how do they build some of these skills and interests that they might have internally that they can't necessarily just go out and figure out? Like a kid can't figure out how to woodwork if they have some type of mentor or a YouTube channel or something, right?
No, but like it's 100% their choice what they want to do. So there's never, I never ever say or said, I want you to learn to read, to write, to calculate, to do anything. Never, because I respect them the way I respect Rob or any other adult. I don't go to you and say, now I'm going to teach you jujitsu, or now I'm going to teach you, I don't know, woodworking, because I consider it important for you. We do spend time with others. And then sometimes when it happens, like one of the other kids says, look what I'm into right now. And then they, find this, try it. And then sometimes there are workshops that people offer. And I ask them, do you want to go? And then who's going? It's more about if their friends are going to be there. So, and sometimes they love it and we, do more of it at home, or sometimes we meet really nice people like adults and they connect with our kids. And I don't think there's ever been something that you would see in a traditional school or learning period in our life where they have done something every single day for a certain amount of hours for months and months. It's really, they choose their own lessons with whatever it is in micro doses. Sometimes here, sometimes outside, sometimes with people, sometimes with us, alone or with other kids. There's nothing I can really tell you. They learned how to read because reading happened for Lima, our older one, 9-year-old, because from the moment she could read, the moment she could speak, she asked, what does this letter mean? What does this word mean? And it was bit by bit over a period of, let's say, 7 years that she now can read, and she learned it all by herself just by asking questions. And, I want to write a letter to Grandma. I want to write a letter to Ruby. I want to, make a sign. Help me.
There's a reason why.
It was only because she wanted to write something. She never said, I want to learn how to write or I want to learn how to read. It just happened because she found something interesting. She had an idea. She had a project or whatever, like her dog walking business, that's like a project, and through that she learned a ton of things, but I cannot give you a list, and I cannot say that she did these things every day for so and so long. And this is the way we learn. I am starting to learn Croatian now because we're going to go to Croatia, and I learn my way, with audio and a bit of looking up the words, and the same way I learned Portuguese here. It was with an app and with a book, and then I looked up a phrase before walking into a shop and asked, how do I say this?
Right.
Everybody has their own learning style, and that's what we respect.
I'd like, one thing. As a father, I noticed that I was fearful that my child wouldn't learn, and they would be kind of retarded, really, like because everyone, it's the classic, like, but what about reading? What if she doesn't learn to read? What if she doesn't get maths? And so what I noticed was, to be self-sovereign, you have to understand what your mind is doing. So you want them to, let's say, be able. You don't want them to be unable, which is a very primitive defense mental programming. That so you want them to be able. So you start to gently. Not force, but you're like, you need to do this, but it's coming from my fear. And I've learned over 3 decades of working with clients now that when it comes through fear, that you want them to be able, you think you're making them more able, but the other side of the wheel is being energized, and the more you tell someone you can do anything you want, because you want them to be able, they're hearing, wow, I must be really unable. If they keep telling me I'm going to be able, if you're confident about something, you don't need to keep telling them. So I've worked with a lot of fathers who've, their kids are in their 20s and they're in therapy with me, because the dad did everything he could to make them as able as possible. Purely out of love, he wanted them to be the best self. But whenever anything's driven by that circular mental childhood programming, really, you're going to create the opposite. So I was very fearful that she wouldn't be able to read and she'd fall behind. And I think my mum was as well. What if, how are they going to learn to read? But again, I am blown away. I'm so thankful to Silvia for green pilling me. Is it green pilling?
Yeah, we call it green pilling.
Green pilling, like unschooling. Because now I see that they are learning so incredibly quickly. And if I say, oh, do you want me to teach you how to swim? I used to be a swimming teacher. She'll go, no. The next day she'll swim. Or this is what's happened. Or I just watch myself when I start to get fearful, because I know that if I step into their world and start doing it, that's authoritarian. It's coming out of fear, and you're going to get the opposite effect. So, fortunately, I just did nothing. And Lima she just, when her brain was ready, she could read. It's like you don't have to teach them to read. They're absorbed, and obviously we're not letting them watch screens, and we talk on a certain level around them with Bitcoiners, and they're hearing it. And so it's just like words come, and then their brain, they know how to read. You don't need to learn to read. You'll hit a certain age and you just know how to read, as long as there's a stimulus there,
So how are you thinking about the future when your kids are adults, and maybe your kid becomes super passionate about accounting or engineering or architecture or something where they need university? I'm not talking about they want to be a philosopher or they want to learn about history. So how do you deal with, or how are you thinking about, well, how do I set my kid up to maybe pursue that opportunity? I don't understand how the relationship goes from unschooling to potential university. And I'm not suggesting that everyone should go to university, but maybe they have an interest in which university is required for them to pursue a passion in the future. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's, I've done a lot of research. I've read about this topic for many, many years now. And even though I don't think university, as you said, it's maybe not for everybody, but whatever our children want, they can do, and we support them. And if in the future they want to go to university, they can. So there are many people who've told their stories and written about this, and it's become more and more easy for homeschoolers and unschoolers to get into college and university, and it's going to get easier. And also universities are going to go more online, where it's not so much going into a place, but you learn online. And
they're looking for homeschoolers and unschoolers.
And that's another big one, yes. For many years now.
The level is, they're way ahead when they. So if you come in and say, I've never done any exams or anything, I'm a homeschooler, they actually don't see that as a negative. They're like, okay, let's just, what are you into? And you're just fine. Homeschoolers or unschoolers talk to adults on an even level. There's a book called Summerhill School, and this was way back in the 40s, where there was like a democratic school, no rules, and there was a huge engineering works, something like, maybe not a Volkswagen, but huge, and the CEO heard that there was a boy from this no rules school where they don't have to go to lessons, and he called him in and said, asked him some questions, said, would you recommend anyone else go to school? And he goes, yes, I love it. And he said, you're the first worker to come in here and address me at the same level. Like, it's one of those hair up moments, because he said there was no authority there. And that's another thing that you want to allow your kids to be their own authority. And that comes, early. And then if they want to go to university, yeah, cool, fine.
And another thing is that we assume that if you want to get a job later, you need to go to university, or you get a good job and a well-paid job. And we're looking more at, like, Lima's 9, and for a year now she's had a dog walking business, so she has a very entrepreneurial mind. She gets a lot of amazing ideas, and tries to put into practice, others she doesn't. And 1 second, please.
She wants to go bake a cake. She's asking for... Huh?
I have to buy something for it.
Yeah, do it after this call, okay, honey?
Oh.
Yeah, please.
There, she wants to go shopping.
Bye.
Go buy some cake ingredients.
So I think this idea around entrepreneurship is really powerful for the kids who are entrepreneurial in nature. And I guess, and it's interesting to hear, that there's an acceptance among universities for homeschool or unschooled kids. Because if your kid wants to be a nurse or a doctor, they can't just be like, I'm never going to go to school, I'm going to be a nurse. Well, it's like, it doesn't, like, the system isn't obviously designed that way.
Sure.
And you might be able to, help people out, but you're not going to, employ yourself in that area. So this is, and I think this connection between the sovereign living, and then at some level you seem to have to enter society, especially if your interests lend yourself to societal norms, like you want to be a nurse or a doctor or an engineer. Do you know what I mean?
100%. We have a boy here who's 14. I was speaking to him yesterday. He's a Bitcoiner's son, and he builds servers in Minecraft, and he builds drones, and he's got a 3D printing machine and stuff. And they're going to get him like a mentorship with a pilot, an acrobatics pilot, because he loves flying. But he knows he's going to have to go through the system. So he wants that. So he's already preparing. And he's got his own flight simulator at home. So, yeah, I totally agree that if you have to go into the system, you have to. But that's sovereignty, right? That if you want to go into the system, you're
making a choice.
Yeah, you can go in or you don't. But the choice needs to be there.
And the point is that, like, most of the jobs that we see is something our kids could do almost now, like most of these jobs. And even the things you learn in university, if let's say a child is interested in medicine, why are they interested in medicine? Like, it's either because they want to help people, or they like the money, or one of these. If they like to help people, they're not just going to learn what the curriculum says at university to become a doctor. They're going to think deeper, because what the university teaches doesn't help people with their health. It just keeps people sick. Like, they treat the symptoms. They never cure anybody, or they cut something out. So if an unschooler or homeschooler who knows how to think critically, and who really, the goal is to help people, they're going to study, like, not just the curriculum, but way more. And they can study everything to do with health and anatomy, and even the curriculum with or without university. And of course they need a certificate, which doesn't mean anything, because there are millions of doctors and they have a certificate, but it doesn't mean that they can help people. And how I see unschoolers is that they're good at problem solving, either their own problems or other people's problems. And if the problems they want to solve are health related, they will find a way, because they really study health and the body, not just the curriculum that keeps people sick. And for me, I never worry about things that are not happening right now. So if my kids in 10, 15 years, and the world will change in those years, will want to go to university, we'll find a way. Like, there's always a way. Like what I always say, find a way. Like, she doesn't manage to go, Mommy, how do you do this? Find a way.
Yeah, we have AI. So like I've set up OpenClaw today because I'm trying to get my head around it. So
me too.
Yeah. So she's around that, and then I say, ask Claude, if we try and find a solution. So I agree.
We also say you can't believe everything that I ask.
And also question that.
Questioning is the most important thing.
Practically, because I think that's really interesting. Like, I've set up OpenClaw a couple weeks ago, and I'm trying to explore, like, how do I get my kids involved in learning AI?
There's the thing there. You said, I'm trying to get my kids interested or involved in AI.
Yeah.
Right. So if that's you. So if you're interested in it, your kids will be around you. They'll start watching you doing it, and they may say, "What are you doing?" And but if they don't, if you go, "Come here, I'm going to show you how to use it." Kids don't like no one likes being told what to do. Right. So you show it, and through yourself, and you go, "Oh my God, look at this, check this out." And it'll either the spark will ignite inside them or it won't. And I know, and you and me want our kids to be able and advanced in AI, right?
Yeah.
But all I can do is learn it. Like, I can't expect them to do it if I don't do it.
Yeah.
So you do it, and then they will, I don't know, it's almost like osmosis.
Right.
If you do it, they will.
Yeah. If they need it for something that's interesting, that's important to them, they will use it, and then that's how they will learn it.
So if you're using OpenClaw or whatever kind of AI model, and you're playing around with it in your business, your kids are like, "Hey, Daddy, what are you doing?" and you show them. At what point are you saying, "Well, hey, maybe for your dog walking business, you can create content," or like, how are you kind of then maybe planting the seeds or guiding a little bit to show them how to get into this? Or even, I mean, one thing that people have problem with AI right now is like, what do I do with OpenClaw? Like, what are the problems that can be solved, right? How do I help my kids, learn that here are some cool problems that you could solve in your problem by playing with OpenClaw? Yeah,
I just say the word guide. I think you said that, right? So do we need to guide Bitcoin? In a way, like there's the knots and core and everything, but Bitcoin just changes you. It's just out there doing that. What we found with our kids is their interest and enjoyment. They will start to say, "Oh, what were we doing?" I know what you're saying. You're saying, how do we add a little? Oh, you could use this. They'll find it. If you're using it yourself, they will come in. We hear them like say things like, "Is there God?" Or they start asking, or they argue. They go into argumentative mode.
Yeah.
And so they're just playing around with it. The moment I step in and say, "Do you want me to help you with that?" or "You could do that," I seem to get the opposite effect, like a pushback. If my daughter says to me, "I don't have any clients, how do I get more clients?" I can say, "Well, this is what I know." But if she doesn't, then her business will die, and she will learn.
Yeah.
So it comes, you know what I mean? It's like.
How do you? I interviewed Aaron Supple, the author of The Sovereign Child, a few weeks ago, and it's a fascinating idea when we talk about this kind of stuff. And there's obviously different extremes to these perspectives, right? We can, some people are reticent about screen time, and we also want to protect our children in some ways from, explicit content, or, who knows what they can discover and play with an AI that might be harmful for them, running into traffic, or maybe eating a poisonous plant. At what point do we as parents kind of step in and say no? At what point are we kind of guiding and being like, hey, maybe you should step back from that a little bit, and or when are we setting in rules, like
well, I think
much screen time or whatever?
Yeah, that's something. I've been dealing with screen time, always trying different ways since Lima was like 3.5. And it changes, and it's all an internal work, because there are things that you might be worried about, and this could actually be amazing for them to learn. Like right now, they're really into Minecraft because they're doing it with Lima's best friend, and they're getting more screen time than usual, but it's only Minecraft, for example. Then other things, I'm very there's no social media unless Lima creates a video for her dog walking business. We never look at other people's videos on social media or YouTube even. We only go in, okay, YouTube, I need to know how to sew this thing, and then I sew it, and then I turn the phone off. So it's just me being a good example. Now also with the music, for example, they love to dance, but then there is so much what I call fiat music. It's just the systems, the system producing the music that people are supposed to hear, that's popular. And I explain to them, I don't want you to listen to this song because it's either very sexual, very aggressive, or it's just a damaged person talking about her problems, and it goes in. Whatever you listen to, it kind of becomes a part of you and how you think. And if you hear too much of it, you think that's normal, and that's how you're gonna feel in a relationship or towards other people. So I just talk a lot about it, and I do limit certain songs and certain movies. I love action, and I don't mind if there's blood and fighting. That's fine. We talk about all that. But when it starts getting into some, indoctrination, that, I always call it fiat indoctrination.
You have to I think the rules we have are we don't allow them to ingest things that are harmful. Or really explain it if they do. Like, why don't we eat more McDonald's? And we explain it because they ask, they want to know. And recently, there were the girls were with a group of girls doing a dance routine for a Christmas party, and there was a lady who was teaching them dance, and one of the girls has full access to YouTube and TikTok. And so she does all these the bikini, like the women thinking that's the only way to be is sexual type of dancing. So I went to the park I was just walking past, and I was like, hey, and then they started twerking. And there were all these men, like old men sitting on benches. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is... Yeah. And so I went back and I told Silvia, and she spoke to the dance teacher, said there's none of this TikTok dancing, or we don't, if one of their friends, as I said, has full access to this fiat system, then she does these TikTok dances and posts them. We explain, like, that's harmful. It's not good for you.
It's a lot of internal work. So it's really seeing, okay, this is appropriate now to set a boundary or a limit or even a rule.
So we do have boundaries. We
boundaries, 100%. Rules can change.
And we're not perfect. Like, me as a father, I'm like... I'm protective, and I know that I can be overly protective, and so I have to, I work on that. I don't want my daughters twerking and sending video. It's dangerous, especially if it's anything to do with social media. So what we found is that if we give them lots of love and connection, they don't want to go on screens. We don't go on screens.
I hardly ever. I only use my phone for what the basic things I need, a human needs.
I mean, that is challenging, right? When we tell our kids to not use screens, but then
Yeah.
we do it in front of them.
Yeah.
Well, it's more about not saying you don't use screens. It's we use them purposefully, or if it's for something intentionally. Exactly.
So how do you advise somebody who generally lives an unsovereign life? You know, they kind of live a normal person's life. What are some like small steps families can take to become more sovereign, whether it's health or education or finance or whatever? What are some small things that people can do? Because to change from regular life to how you speak about life is a massive deal. And most people, like you, transition over time, right? So what are some things people can do?
Well, I would think it starts with research to see that it's possible, and there's no way around learning without experiencing. So you can read things and you can read other people's stories and even believe it, but to know whether this is true and the right thing for you, you need to experience it. But where to start, I think this is not something I could tell anybody. I think it's just really do a research, start with one area, either Bitcoin or unschooling or health or something else. And then bit by bit, you will see the parallels and the connections of this whole massive system that we were born into and most of us are trapped in. And I think that will help to open up, oh, wow, it's possible. And now how can I do this? Every person has to see, maybe it's also, I don't know what's going to change, which kind of horizon is going to open up for them. But this is then something for them that they can maybe start experiencing and changing in their life.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I'd say also that we, in my experience, we create our own reality based from our conditioning and our behaviors. So we have to understand and know the truth about our programming, which makes us live the way we do and pay attention to things that we think are valuable. We need to be questioning that constantly. So it's like, I think I see the word is like metacognition. Is to be free, you have to first start by looking at your thoughts.
That word again?
I think it's metacognition. It's what I call admin mode, is being able to observe your thoughts, because your thoughts create your behaviors and your behaviors create your reality. And so if you a lot of people are starting to feel fear, which is the initial what they need to start going, shit, this isn't going well. I can see that something's not right. I need to. So they start to look, and so yes, they'll start to look for Bitcoin and how to get out of Germany and how to get out of. Like, we speak to a lot of Europeans who we need to get out of Holland, etc. But that is the first steps in their life. But if they look, they need to start understanding how to decondition themselves, and then their reality starts to change. So, but how that, I've been doing it for 30 years, this work. So when I work with someone initially, it's just making them understand that their thoughts are old defense systems.
Right.
And so, that's where I would say, hey, you need to start looking at your behaviors. And I call them hamster wheels that make you, you're constantly, trying to be more able and get attention paid to you and moving away from being ignored and being wrong. People want to be right. They want to be free, and they don't want to be enslaved. And so even Bitcoin, that's not going to that takes you so far, but you have to look at your internal enslavement. So it's probably, I think your answer is probably better. Like, how do you get people interested in Bitcoin? Well, they have to have a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not everybody needs to start with Bitcoin. But it's if you maybe start working internally, because that's also, as I said, it's not the outside world, it's the inside world that needs to be sovereign. That's maybe where it needs to start.
100%. I've got like it's open source. Like there are 5 programs that run everyone. So in my book I explain them. It's like $7 on a Kindle, but it's a guide. It shows you exactly how to become sovereign from your mind. The mind is the problem, centralized. And so you move into admin mode, decentralized. And so it's very simple, and there's a guide there, and anyone can start straight away. I'm not saying that's the only way, but that's the way I've used, and we use, and we explain to our kids. And we, if I get triggered, I'll say, I'm sorry, my wrong hamster wheel got triggered, and they understand them.
Right. Yeah.
So it's much more simple. It's the highest form of intelligence, being able to observe your behavior without comment, Krishnamurti. So it's extremely difficult, but it's also very simple. And it's the only person who can do it is yourself.
Right.
If I want my children to be able, I've got to look at my unableness. Yeah.
That's great. And I find that super helpful. I, to be honest, guys, I feel like I could have a 6-hour conversation about this kind of stuff. I've got so many other things to say and ask. But I want to wrap this up. But I think that we should have another conversation in a little while and continue this, because this is super inspiring. And I find what you guys are saying to be bang on and excellent. I love it. Where can we learn more about A Place to Be? Where can we learn more about Glitch and any other things that you have going on?
Yeah, it's glitch.co.
Glitchthebook.co. Glitchthebook.co. And I want to open source it. So I'm just working on a new website so that maybe value for value, but just open source it. So that's that. And I think if you have fears for your children, or you're worried or you're scared, then that's an internal game. That's why I love my work. And for A Place to Be,
it's aplacetobe.me.
A Place to Be me.
That's great. Guys, thanks so much for this conversation. I find this super inspirational and helpful. And I think other families that listen to this will be inspired to take small steps into the future and how they want to live more sovereignly. So, starting with your mind and exploring some of these big ideas that are so impactful on our children. Let's have this conversation again and continue this. But Rob and Silvia, I really appreciate you guys being with me here today.
Thanks, Jarrett. And maybe on the next call you tell us more about what you're doing as well, because I'd like to know more about that too.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you, Jarrett.